welcome back to another episode of the South by East podcast, where we discuss the scriptures, music, and everything in between. Brail.
Man, John, my wife hit me with this video and she was like, have you ever seen this? I was like, what do you mean? I started watching and it was this video about the culture of education of the school system in Japan. And it kind of got me thinking. Let's check it out.
This is why the Japanese people are considered among the wisest and greatest nations in the world. You'll be quite surprised by the end. In Japanese schools, the students don't take any exams until they reach grade 4. The Japanese believe that at this age, there are far more important lessons to impart to children than those found on tests. First, there's teaching proper behavior and respect for all people, regardless of their financial status. Second, it's about fostering independence and simultaneously the ability to work in a team. For example, there are no janitors in schools. Students share responsibilities and take full charge of cleaning. Third, students learn the importance of valuing and conserving the environment. Fourth, education is pursued truly for knowledge, not for grades. In the lower and middle grades, students aren't given grades. Fifth, lightness and punctuality are emphasized. As a result, children's interest in their studies is so high that attendance rates are nearly 100%, and the overall development of these children ranks among the most advanced. What do you think about this? Share your thoughts in the
Man, as I watched this video, I thought about my master's thesis. And when I was there, I did my master's thesis actually on education. I was going to start some music programs, some after-school music programs. So they had me study different styles of learning and different educational systems, like the Montessori school and different things of that nature. And one of the things I was like, man, the education system that we have right now is really set up to teach people how to work, but not really to teach them how to think. And when I watch, not that the Japanese are just the most free-thinking people in the world, but when I watch something like this and I think about what they value at the early level of education, it calls some things into question for me. For one, if you study the history of American education, you know that early on, our educational system was built to create a class of workers. There, you can find history books where you can find former presidents talking about making sure that that the educational system does not fit certain demographics of people well and does not accept their cultures well or represent their cultures well, because we have to have a slave class. And you can look it up for yourself. But we have to have a slave class. We have to have a class of people who only hit a certain threshold of jobs, because we need people to take out our trash. We need people to do certain things. And when I look at what is valued here, the value of teamwork, the value of learning to think both independently and bring that independence to a group, I'm like, man, I see a lot of strengths in that versus valuing regurgitation of facts. Facts are important, but that's really what starts to stick out to me. But I'm interested to hear what you think. I had a little time to process it. What did you think when watching it?
Yeah, that was a lot more entertaining than my daughter at dinner last night saying, Daddy, you know those green lights that happen in the sky? We were like, you talking about the northern lights? Yeah. You got to make sure not to call out to those, because the aliens might come down and grab you. And we were like, no, baby, that doesn't really happen. She's like, yeah. I was told that at school. And I said, babe, I think they were joking with you. And so we had to, just to make sure, we had to say, we don't believe that even if they do, okay? So just to make sure, I believe they were joking with you. But it's one of those deals where, one, I wonder how much of that is, for me, some of that I feel like was overstatement. It is kind of oversimplification. Yeah. I do think some of the deal, I do, my wife taught in China for 3 years. And so I did, like, cleaning the whole, And I think that part is missing. I recently read a book called The Anxious Generation that dives into just a whole bunch of stuff, even some of the stuff that was in that, and just the importance on the education side. And I believe that we are lacking on that. My college professors I loved because they said, man, our main job is to help teach you how to think.
Yep.
Not to teach you how to do stuff. And even with our, kids were like, no, we don't want to give you the answer. We want you to think, right? We want you to think. And it might take you longer to come to it, but you're going to think. I read an article here even recently, and it was on line with my thinking of people thinking that AI is going to take over and replace pastors or replace this or that. And it's not and you should be using AI, but here's the problem. AI is a resource that you should use, but you have to be careful, because if you let AI start doing all your critical thinking for you, then it starts to short circuit your ability to do critical thinking. And then you start slowly losing that ability because you're letting it do these tasks that you used to do too often.
I'm gonna take it. Just keep that pin in that. If you start letting the comment section do all your critical thinking for you, or Fox News do all the critical thinking for you, or CNN do all the critical thinking for you, you're going to encounter the same process. Continue.
Yeah. So it's one of those deals where, like, one of the things I love AI for is the just voice. So I'll write something, I'll do, and then I'll say, this piece of this right here, that sounds rougher than I like for it to sound. I really want this voice on
so
this.
It's helping with your tone.
It's helping with my tone and especially in really hard to state things. I'll be like, hey, I want it to sound like this. Is there a better way to say this that I said that doesn't make me sound like a jerk?
Right, exactly. Right.
Can you please help me not sound like a jerk when I say this?
Right.
I want to convey this ideal. This is what I wrote, but I need to not sound like a jerk when I say this.
Right.
And so that's different than just having to do thinking for you. And so I when I look at things like that, I think there's some value in that, and taking the time to really reinforce learning rather than performing.
Yeah.
And I think too much is based on performance. And it's not the kid's fault a lot of times. It's because their parent wants the certificates to hang on the wall.
Yeah.
And their parents want the ribbons to show off. And it's saying like, and I think the same thing has happened with youth sports. I think the same thing has happened in youth sports where kids are not learning the basics anymore because their parents are trying to make videos to send the scouts already.
You got to get the highlights.
Yeah.
And man, I agree with that, like, especially when you're talking about things not being based on performance. I think it was number four or something that they said it was based on growth. One of the best classes I took in my master's program was this theory class in Berkeley. And they're like, hey, we don't know where everybody came from in theory or what your background was, so we want to give you this course that'll help you catch up if you don't feel like you know it. The reason is, typically when people talk about music theory, it is very retroactive. This is how I talk about it. It's very retroactive. This happened in this point in time. These were the rules that people use, or these were the trends that they use. We retroactively have called those rules. So this is what the classical era. There's no classical era composers. People were composing. They all kind of did the same stuff. We said that's the classical era. They weren't following any rules, but we do. And often what happens is when people study music theory that way, they start recreating what was made before, as opposed to innovating and creating new things, which is actually how we got the rules in the first place. Jazz theory is almost the opposite. Jazz theory is, what am I looking at, and how can I tell this person what it is so that we can build something off of it? That's all jazz theory tells you. And so this class went from antiquity all the way up to modern jazz theory, which really Berkeley coined. And so they're trying to help you, like, here, I want you to know where we came from and why we do what we do now. The only grade you ever got on that class was your own personal improvement. They tested you at the beginning, and if you improved, great. Depending upon how much you improved, that's what your grade was. Because they were like, at the end of the day, we just want you to have these tools so you can go out and do the important stuff.
Yeah.
The grade in this class is not important. So all they graded us on was how much we grew towards our own goals. And I was like, that blew my mind. I was like, this is the best class I've ever taken, because I stepped into that class and I said, here's what I want to be able to do. And that's what they graded me on.
But bro, man, you got so many people that's afraid to even set goals because they've been in performance culture.
Yep.
And it's like I've run across this so much. You have people that you say, okay, I'm gonna let you make the goals. I want you to sit down. We're gonna make them. We're gonna make good goals, and I want you to now pursue these goals for growth. And you'll see they try to give themselves something, and it's not their first run at goals are not goals that is really gonna help them grow. Mm-hmm. It's stuff that they can achieve. Yeah. Because they want to perform well rather than truly grow. Mm-hmm. And because they've been tapped into this thing of, if I miss a goal, then I'm a bad person. Yeah. And rather than saying, man, if I need to set some goals that really are going to stretch me and grow me, because I'm going to become more valuable if the more I grow. Even if I don't reach that goal, I'm going to be more valuable. Rather than just getting something I can achieve easily and mark off on a sheet that means nothing to me. And then, but here's the kicker on that though. Then that same person will tell you how bored they are at their job and how much they hate their job.
Even though they're achieving.
And it's because you've really chosen to aim at something that wasn't going to fulfill you anyway, because you're not looking at growing every day and challenging yourself. Man, how many times have I run across someone that says they put this thing off because they've never done it before? Mm-hmm. In my job, I'm like, okay, I've never done that before, man. This is about to be an adventure. Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
So, man, I've never done that before. Like, we've never done that before either. This is about to be. We're about to find out.
Figure it out.
Yeah, we're about to figure it out.
Man, I think that's part of what I liked about that video, and not to say, because I think some of it is an overstatement. And anytime I see a video on Facebook like, this country just doing it way better than your country, I'm like, oh, okay, this is for the clicks, this is for the likes. But because people like to complain about their home, that's it. That's it. But what I like about that style, and I've seen classrooms here in Topeka where that's the case, but it's teaching humanity. How can I be of value to myself and to others around me? How do I build my value? Like you said, if I go towards this growth goal, I become more valuable. Valuable to who? Valuable to myself, valuable to my family, valuable to my community. And when we put ourselves in environments that enrich our humanity, growth will always be the end goal, because then we are more valuable to one another. And I got to shout out Miss Martinez's class at Ross Elementary. When kids walk in, they got a word of the day from a different culture. And there's no grades on it. It's just, hey, who wants to attempt the word of the day? Here's what it means. They memorize what it means. They say what it means. And then they read. She gives out points for people who do things that benefit the whole class as a whole. Man, you were being really quiet today when everybody else was talking. I'm going to get you a point for that. Who else can do it? And she prioritizes things that benefit the whole and the growth of the individual. In that type of environment, I don't care, man. You can tell me, hey, I'm gonna have Miss Martinez teaching science to your kids. I don't care. I know my kids are gonna come back better.
Here's the deal. I don't know if I've ever met Miss Martinez, but she is regularly discussed by my kids in my home. And they enjoy their experience with Miss Martinez. She is regularly discussed in the Sublette household by the Sublette kids, the 3 Sublette kids that go to Ross.
Man, I'm not surprised by that, because she's had an impact on me. And I think that's the thing too, is it's not always the system. Like, the system is important, and I think what we did a whole series on where our educational system is potentially has some setbacks and where it could be going. And so I'm definitely, we have to be critical of the systems that we're in, and so that we can get the best results.
But you can celebrate too.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not just the system, it's the environment. Man, I've had some amazing, in the educational system we have right now, even with its flaws, I've had some amazing teachers who have had lifelong impacts on me. And it's not because the curriculum dictated it. It's because they brought their own humanity to the
Yeah.
classroom and they wanted to see me grow. And they did. Well, what about y'all? What do y'all think about educational systems and environments? Do you think that there's more room for us to grow, to bring some different things? And where have you seen this going on, or where could you be making an impact in someone's life around you? Let's have the conversation after the conversation in the comment section, and we'll see you next week in the
In the
intersection.
intersection.